Alrighty, everybody. It is 5 after now, so let's go ahead and get things started. Welcome to the community update for Product and Protocol on April 11th, 2023. Today, we are going to be getting into some governance first, kind of a break from our normal timeline just to accommodate some schedules. We're going to start with LOA Labs talking about some work that they're doing on codifying Regen network governance. And then we're going to talk about Quicksilver, and they're not currently in governance, but talking about kind of the effects of that governance proposal. We're going to go into Regen Ledger 5.1 upgrade. Ryan's going to be on to talk about that. Cory has volunteered to do a very enthusiastic Ledger bridge demo. And then, yeah, hopefully we'll have Johnny from Osmosis come on and talk about the coming NC2 pool launch that is happening this week. And then some end governance just to have everybody go out and vote. Reminder at the end. Alrighty, upcoming events. Sticking with the new schedule. Next week is Regenerati News Hour, and then the following week is the Registry Science and Foundation call, and then the following week is another Regenerati News Hour, and then the following week is the Product and Protocol community call. So yeah, it's a 4-week cycle, and take a screenshot, whatever you need to do. And we obviously share these as they're coming up. Let's go. Other events that are upcoming. This week, Gregory is going to be speaking at Sustainable Blockchain Summit in Boston. Next week is a special Regenerati News Hour because they're going to be doing a deep dive into that NCT pool launch with Osmosis and Toucan. And then at the end of this month, Gregory is going to be speaking at Consistence in Austin. So if you're in either of those places while Gregory is speaking, check it out if you can. All right. And with that basic stuff out of the way, let's get right in. And Dave, you're going to talk about this governance update for us.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. Hi, everyone. Dave Fortson here, longtime partner of Regen Network and Regen Network development since very early days, 2017, all the way to now. Also have a history in Web 2 governance as a former Politico activist, both inside and outside of traditional government. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. We also are a longtime validator for Regen Network as well. So LOA Labs, loalabs.io. So thank you for all of your support and delegations. So, I think for us, and being also deep within the Cosmos ecosystem, I'd say across Web3 more broadly, I think our governance in Web3 is arguably probably one of the biggest potential exports, at least of Cosmos to Web3. How to do governance, how not to make the same mistakes that Web 2 are making, where to learn where Web 2 governance has succeeded and failed, and also, given the frankly the stakes around how to govern a decentralized blockchain, proof of stake blockchain. This is a big deal, right? Given regulatory pressure and and investigations, given just the need to be mindful with community treasuries and be mindful with how we design a publicly governed, in this case, app chain for the origination of ecological assets. I think we just realized that we're just early stage enough to be able to move around and think critically and reflectively about how we can shape this appropriately within Regen. And also just far enough along where we've already had some ability to look in the rearview mirror, like I think we're 20 some proposals in, and I expect the velocity of proposals coming at the Regen ecosystem is going to increase dramatically around, anything from credit classes to community spends to signaling proposals about where the community wants to go on any particular issue. So to that end, we've been following along, obviously closely as a validator, but also as just a community member who wants to really take a look under the hood at how can we improve governance, decentralized governance for Regen Network, and how can we also double click on community spend, those proposals, the process, and how to engage properly there. So what we've started, and I put it in the chat here, there's a link in Commonwealth that we kind of kicked off with some 4 major areas that we've identified, again, pretty big buckets around proposal, funnel and stages, accountability, prioritization, and just generally like what else is missing. And we're hoping to do is do some early stage Commonwealth-based communication and information mind share about what's moving for you and how you'd want to see Regen Network consider an upgraded approach to community governance and community spends. What are the issues that you've seen either retroactively or that you're contemplating moving forward are required for us to be good stewards of this ecosystem as a community, and anything from and I'll just double click into like community spends around what does accountability look and feel like for Regen network ecosystems, where again, I think on a very baseline level, it's community spend. Somebody's got an idea around how they want to serve the network or the movement more broadly. They appeal to the community for a chunk of money. That money gets handed over, and then what? That's how how I think the baseline operations has started. I think we agree that there are I think important ways that we need to add accountability layers into that program to ensure that token health is considered, to ensure that we look at actual delivery on the promise of work to be delivered, and frankly that we just have a better system for caretaking a treasury that is meant to serve the community in the long term. Other things, again, just thinking about, and then as far as proposals, like what is the phase proposals to ensure the highest level of community engagement early on and get really early signaling proposals, from obviously getting something up on Commonwealth, socializing on Twitter, having internal snapshots to give a sense of the community, all the way to getting these things on chain. Are they parameter upgrades? Are they simple signaling proposals? What level of restrictions do we want to, I don't know if restrictions is the right word, parameters do we want to activate to ensure that proposals have been socialized and metabolized within a community before we get them on chain? Do we want to have sub DAOs at some point? I mean, there's a number of different ways we could do this. So these are the kinds of things that we're hoping to explore first in Commonwealth, and then LOA Labs intends on holding some public workshops around this. And frankly, we're also watching pretty closely other communities like EVMOS and the Hub, and to see what they're all doing as well. This is a very potent and hot topic across Cosmos in particular on, frankly, growing up a little bit when it comes to community governance. So I'm going to stop there and just see if what's moving for any of you on this front. If anything, very specifically that you're interested in having explored, and also just the process for exploring this concept. So if you could give me a shout around that, that would be great. And look, we're even getting our first Zoom bombers. I love it. All right, so any thoughts or questions around this topic? And, floor is open.
Sorry. I actually have a few thoughts. One, I'm so excited that you guys brought this up, because this governance process is going to have to be codified at some point, and it can either be after we realize what codes need to be put into place to keep our blockchain and governance processes safe and streamlined, or we can do it now when it's all theoretical and set up those safety nets before they even need to be used necessarily. I mean, obviously, we have some rear view behind us, but so one, that. Two, you guys have done quite a lot of work on just kind of looking at how governance is approached in the Cosmos ecosystem-wide setting, and you guys have some work on GitHub, I believe, that you've done there. Could you share that link to everybody as well?
Yes. Oh, sorry, I'll put the GitHub link in right now as well. Yeah, thanks for flagging that. So this GitHub link that we're going to share is a Git book link is designed to be open for upgrades and suggestions around what we call the principles for decentralized governance. Again, pretty general, like high level principles that we've started to explore, and we're sharing this with some of our friends in the Cosmos ecosystem. So we welcome your upgrades here. We'll incorporate that into the way we're thinking about Regen. And again, as a validator across multiple chains, our goal is to bring that this be a kind of value that we provide more broadly. So frankly, what we do here in Regen is something we'd like to bring up. But Jacob, we were just finishing up here. Again, it's just maybe another seasoned veteran at Cosmos governance. Again, what I was sharing is that we're certainly, with LOA Labs Validator, and I know your team is spending a fair amount of time here around kind of top principles for decentralized governance and community spends. I'd be curious if you had any just high level reflections on, where you all see kind of like mission critical upgrades that you think we should be focusing on as Regen community. Or just more broadly of what you're seeing across the Cosmos ecosystem as either good examples or bad examples that we might incorporate into our kind of process here for community discussion.
Sure, absolutely. So the first thing is that I think that over time the group's excuse the lens. So, Greg, that was very anti-patterns.
Jacob, you're breaking up pretty
Assume
fast.
everybody.
You sound like a robot.
There's another thing. I could be interrupting all kinds of people.
There we go. Now you're better.
Hey, now I can hear you.
This morning, and that dude next door.
Okay, great. I'm gonna just I'm keeping the my control over who can get in.
Cool. I mean, that makes sense. I just sort of pick up like right where we left off. Weird anti-pattern. I don't think this is obvious. Governance proposals should not define vote options at all. This comes from the maxim that Larry, that's Larry 0x, he's always right. He's been saying this for a while. He's right, because otherwise you can define them and do it wrong. This is a silly procedural matter that we can eliminate by not defining the vote options. I'm very, very serious about that. We saw this in Hub Proposal 69. I just saw this in my own 787. I certainly didn't feel I was doing anything unreasonable, and we can remove that stumbling block for people. When it
Can you
comes,
just give an
can you say
example
a
of
little
what you
bit-
mean?
Yeah, can you
that?
just say a little bit more about that?
absolutely. So in 69, we had that no with veto that discussed the concept of exit. I don't know if you remember that, but basically it was like, you vote no with veto and this measure passes, your validator should leave the network. And I took that as a threat. Now, you know what? I think it was a threat. It was not cool. That was the one to put CosmWasm, permission CosmWasm on the hub. And then other folks felt that much later, very recently, the ICF transparency proposal, that my defining no as like something other than nil was bad. Basically, the no option on that reads like, if a no passes, the hub community releases the Entertain Foundation from any obligation to do transparency reporting. And I'll tell everybody really directly that I wrote that myself because I personally was really tired of I don't want to talk about it. It's just if they would like to claim to be transparent, they should be transparent. And otherwise they can just claim to be opaque, and like, that's cool too. But I do think that the hub should attempt to steer them, because they're like way outside of the transparent zone. Anyhow, common stumbling block. There's an expectation that proposal authors will define what the vote options mean. Let's not. Yes is crazy obvious. No, also crazy obvious. Abstain, crazy obvious. Veto, defined in the software. We also asked about like upgrades to governance and stuff. And I assume that you guys have spoken with Raul from BitCana.
I mean, I'm not sure specifically that he's chimed in about this discussion around governance, but yeah, Raul's been a longtime community member. You're on mute, Jacob.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Raul is building a UI for groups, and I'm seeing more and more cases where the groups module design is totally correct, in that it wraps a multi-sig. And so I would just say to Regen, kudos, because I know that the Regen community put a lot of work into groups. I know that the hub community did as well, but like very mutual effort there. And I think it's being proven as we speak, like the need for that. It's worth saying. That's kind of my feedback. Like, I think the practice of defining vote options needs to go to the wayside, or we just create a stumbling block that doesn't need to be there.
Hey, Jacob, quick related on the community spend side of things, which is probably even an acute issue for us of like, how do we address in a way that kind of preserves the best of Web3 spirit, but also, you know, recognizes the need for accountability and things along those lines. Have you seen any patterns that you've thought are going in the right direction when it comes to governance?
Can I brag a little?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, actually, I'll just toot Lit's horn and Jihan's horn. They collectively came up with the design for Proposal 104 on the hub. And I suppose that software-wise, 104 could have been improved. That fund's notional, by the way, and it could have been improved by having streaming in the code. The really nice part about 104, we can quit. The hub can fire us. There's a software upgrade involved, so it's not totally ideal, and that's what I mean about having streaming functionality. But I think that that progressive part is very important for maintenance work. Marco made a comment recently that I fully agree with. He said, look, if we're changing every team every couple of months, nothing is ever going to happen. And so let's like take a couple of paths simultaneously. There are likely, let's say, feature spends on software or community event spends, right? These are basically one shot. And on those, you basically just want to verify the work. And I would say that there's some trust involved in both, because let's just take like a conference, for example, right? At some point, the conference needs to be funded. You are taking a little bit of a leap of faith. And on a feature, well, I wouldn't advise like software development groups to build features on credit. Generally, you might want to have like a half payment, then a half payment, and the groups module might come in very handy for that. Like delegating say you want a feature built, right? Well, delegate basically take money from the larger community pool, put it in a group, and then fund in pieces as it goes. But then when it comes to maintenance work, I'd encourage the regen community and any community in Cosmos to think on a years-long time scale, like multi-year. And you're only really going to want to change that if something has gone very off track, or the team wishes to leave that maintenance role. You'll want to have metrics and things for that, but I do believe that maintenance is just a long-term endeavor, and that when it comes to engineering, turnover is harmful. So where we can use governance to try to have some continuity, which is very hard, and one of the reasons I'm really proud of 104, that I think that's a great thing when it comes to overall maintenance of long-term initiatives, which doesn't necessarily only need to be the chain itself.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much for that input. I don't want to push things along too fast, but we do still have a lot of community call to get through, and this is taken up with all of the hecklers more time than necessary. If you guys have thoughts on governance and how you want to see governance proceed moving forward, definitely check out the discussion shared by Dave in the meeting chat, and also their GitHub has a lot of really fun information on it, and they've done some cool research there. So thank you very much, Dave, for taking the time to come speak on this, and everybody who commented. All right. Quicksilver, who we got from Quicksilver? Fish, is that you?
Hey, yeah,
Hey.
that's me. Yeah, I can quickly go over this, sort of run through Quicksilver, where we are in Regen, what sort of our plans are going forward. And there's an LSM proposal, at least going around in the Commonwealth. I think Jacob would also want to talk about that. But yeah, I guess just to introduce Quicksilver, we're a liquid staking protocol in Cosmos. We've sort of been in the liquid staking research space for a while. The team, we come from Chorus One. And yeah, we've generally been working on this for a while. I think to introduce like the Quicksilver liquid staking solution, there's, I think, two main things that we do differently than most liquid staking solutions in crypto, right? First being that we have a completely unrestricted validator set. That means while liquid staking, you can delegate your assets to any validator that natively exists in the chain. So there's no gatekeeping by us. And obviously, this promotes decentralization, stake distribution, and validators can still do what they usually do, right? Just go out and get stake, for their validator, support their cause, that sort of thing. So Quicksilver sort of promotes that side of things. And the other thing we also work on is governance, right? We let Q Regen token holders vote on governance proposals. So we're working on that. That will come live very soon. And the cool thing about this is you can vote on these proposals while you have your assets on remote chains. So if I have my Q Regen in an osmosis pool or in a DeFi position somewhere, I can still use that to vote on Quicksilver proposals, right? I can also use that Q Regen to like redelegate my stake with different validators. So we're sort of trying to like ensure that you have your regen with you, you're staking it, you're using it in DeFi, but you're also like participating in governance and exercising like your validator choice or the rights regarding voting power distribution, right? So that some of the things that Quicksilver, some of the themes that Quicksilver works with. I think as it stands now, we're live with Regen, the Q Regen pool is live, also on Osmosis. So definitely something to check out. And there's the proposal for a liquid staking module right now. Okay, maybe I can quickly run through the liquid staking module, and then I'm happy to take questions and like open up a discussion. So this liquid staking module is essentially a module that replaces, I think, the staking module on native chains. And what it essentially does is it tokenizes your stake position into like a non-fungible delegation share. So if I have like 1,000 Regen stake with validator A, I can essentially claim like 1,000 Regen with validator A non-fungible share or token kind of thing, right? And now I can use this in liquid staking protocols to essentially claim Q region. So what you're actually doing is you don't have an unbonding period when you enter from staking into liquid staking, right? So this is supposed to bring like a large amount of stake into liquid staking, improve capital efficiency and that sort of thing. And the discussion's also happening in Cosmos Hub now. That's pretty cool to see that. I think Regen and Cosmos Hub are the first couple of chains where this discussion's actually ongoing. So yeah, happy to answer any questions about just liquid staking in general, Quicksilver, LSM, anything. Jacob, if you want to say something about the LSM, also feel free to take the floor.
Oh, I mean, I suppose I should just say I'm roundly in support of it. I think implementation should be coordinated across the ecosystem. And I'm happy to talk tech, but want to be mindful of like eating up too much of the call. So I'm gonna let the Regen team hop into other matters, but like I'm a hell yeah on it.
When you say on it, you mean in support of Quicksilver and liquid staking more broadly, or like implementing the liquid staking module in a Cosmos chain?
Implementing the liquid staking module, even bringing that into the SDK, it basically makes liquid staking a lot safer than the ICA-based approach. And yeah, I'm so very if we're going to be doing liquid staking, I feel that the LSM makes it a good deal safer for chains and their communities.
I've got a question for you about positives and negatives in making some of our primary liquidity on Osmosis being a Q regen pool rather than a regen pool.
Could you repeat the last part?
If we were to shift our primary liquidity like regions, primary liquidity from a regen / atom or regen / Osmo to a Q regen / other currency, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I honestly think that's a great idea. Because in many ways, if you essentially make your base pair a liquid staking pair, then the cost to incentivize this pool would be really low, right? So whatever a chain or a community spends on bootstrapping its liquidity or essentially ensuring that the liquidity of that token continues in the form of incentives, the amount required to do that would be a lot lower because half of that pair is earning staking rewards anyway, right? So if you have a Q region atom pool, the amount of incentives you require there would be much lower. So that's definitely like a great approach. And especially with the LSM, right? It becomes now a lot easier for people to LP the Q region, and like a deeper liquidity means that you could potentially start using Q region in other DeFi use cases, right? I think that would also be great for the ecosystem. I think currently Say Network and DYDX are seriously considering using a staking derivatives as their base pair asset. I think on a few dexes like ShadeSwap, Forge on Evmos, they're also using like staking derivatives as their base pair, which then branches off to everything else. So I think in Cosmos, this is definitely something that we're seeing. And unless like the cost to switch over is massive, in the sense that unless there's already like super deep liquidity, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer. Like most of the new projects that are coming in and new tokens that are launching are seriously considering using a liquid stake token as like their main pair, right? And in fact, I think with Say Network, they're also making like the liquid stake version of Say their default staking option, right? So you begin liquid staking, right? I guess for them, it makes sense because capital efficiency is the name of the game. But in general, it is a trend for sure.
Well, thank you.
I was just going to point out in the forum post that has since been linked in the chat, I had asked just a couple questions to the community, to the Quicksilver team, and to engineers at Regen. So if any of you want to hop in the thread there and just comment on some of that stuff, that might help get more information out in public so people can have what they need to vote on it.
Rad.
Yeah,
Any
yeah,
other
yeah.
questions? Sorry.
Oh, just maybe timeline on that governance proposal, because
I was just going to say there hasn't been much action on the Commonwealth Post so far. Maybe we could get a few more voices in there, but yeah, Cory, do you have any comment from engineering side?
No, not at this time.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on and talking about that. If there are no more questions, we'll move on to the next thing. Alrighty, Regen Ledger 5.1 upgrade. This happened last week. Do we have Ryan on? Do you want to talk for a few minutes about this?
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty short. This was a relatively small upgrade. We upgraded 2 weeks ago, so the voter turnout was 69.92% with a 99.99 yes. There was just a couple abstains in the vote. And other than that, yeah, the upgrade went successfully, executed on April 5th, no problems, happened within 12 minutes. Big shout out to validators for being prepared and available. So that was really smooth. What it included essentially was just updating to the latest patch release of Cosmos SDK V046, which was V046.11 at the time. 12 just came out last week, but yeah, we'll determine when we're going to upgrade it to that. But also Jacob and his team have actually submitted a PR to start the work on updating to 4.7, so that's something to look forward to. In addition to the update on the Cosmos SDK side, we also did some updates to credit batch metadata. Essentially, this is part of a larger story in terms of separating out what we anchor on chain versus what we don't anchor on chain. And what we don't anchor on chain is more specific to the application. So if you are cruising around app.regen.network, you'll notice that there have been updates to the project pages. And a lot of that was a reflection or outcome of this credit batch metadata update. Credit batch metadata is not something that can be updated by a credit class issuer or a credit class admin because it could actually affect the price of credits. So that's why it is included as part of a software upgrade and done as a manual migration. So that was included in this update. In addition, we created the NCT basket on mainnet, and in so doing, there was one of the date criteria fields that wasn't being set properly. So we actually implemented a fix for that, and we included updating the date criteria to this toucan standard as it was at the time of cutting the release, which was a 10-year rolling window. There is another governance proposal in discussion up around updating that to align with the NCT standard that has been kind of updated recently on the toucan side. But this upgrade just updated it to the standard as it was at that point in time and included a fix, and also included a new gov message that enables the ability to update the date criteria of a basket. And similar to credit batch metadata updates, updating the date criteria of a basket shouldn't be the responsibility of a single individual or group. It should be a network-wide vote, because updating the date criteria could affect the price of the underlying token of the basket, in this case, NCT. So we implemented a fix for the basket creation. We also fixed user errors to make sure that credits could be pulled out of the basket in a tradable state. When creating the basket, there was a flag that was missed in terms of basically disabling this auto retire functionality. And we included this new governance message that allows for updating date criteria. And then finally, we added a few event fields to the bridge events. This wasn't blocking the bridge launch, but this helped us like optimize and improve our monitoring of the bridge service. So we snuck a few events in there to improve the bridge service monitoring specifically, and the bridge is now live and launched and using those optimizations. So that's pretty much it for Regen 5.1. Pretty small upgrade, but significant changes and fixes. That's it for me.
Awesome. Any questions from anybody on the 5.1 upgrade? Very exciting. Thank you very much, Ryan. Alrighty, next, Polygon Regen Ledger Bridge. Cory, you're up.
Cool. I think if you could keep this on for a second, and then when I walk through this, after I walk through this slide, I'll take over screen sharing. So the Polygon Regen Ledger Bridge is live. This is a project that's been underway by R&D in partnership with the Toucan team for, I don't know the exact start date, but it must be over a year at this point. I'm pretty sure, at least in concept, if not like in actual like legitimate implementation work. So what that means is that TCO2s, which are Toucan's representation of Vera credits that are eligible for the NCT kind of pools or the NCT baskets, as they're known in Regen, can now be bridged to Regen Network under the TCO2 credit class. So we have a credit class instantiated on Regen Network that is managed jointly by the R&D and Toucan team. And the issuance of credits under this credit class is basically managed automatically through a fully custodial bridge that we've developed in partnership with the Toucan team. It listens to bridge initiations from Polygon, and when those happen, it issues the corresponding credits on the Regen Network blockchain under the TCO2 credit class. And in the same way, when an end user initiates credits on Regen Network of this TCO2 credit class to be bridged back to Polygon, then those will pop up on the other side, just as they originated. So in terms of functionality, what that means on Regen Ledger, credits can be retired for climate accounting. Credits can be listed in the marketplace for secondary sale. So if you're an owner of TCO2 credits and you bridge them over to Regen Network, you can list them for sale on the marketplace at any specified price. And credits can also be basketed into NCT on Regen Ledger. The reason I have this asterisk here for basket is that, you know, retirement and listing credits in the marketplace is something that you can do if you hold any credit on Regen Ledger. But this basketing functionality into NCT is something that is only possible with these TCO2 credits as the acceptance criteria for the NCT standard, which is a token standard managed by the Toucan team, is nature-based methodologies of credits issued by Vera. So as I mentioned, TCO2 credits can also be bridged back to Polygon. And what this does is it enables full parity between the NCT pools, both on the Polygon in SushiSwap ecosystem, as well as in the Cosmos ecosystem, where we'll soon be launching a pool on Osmosis. So if you can turn off, I'll jump to screen sharing for a little demo. Can folks see my screen?
Yep.
So I'm refreshing this page. So what you can see here, this is the bridge tokens page of the Toucan app. If you click on your tokens, you'll see some tokens, like if you're bridging to another chain, and some unsupported tokens. The thing is, you first have to select your destination chain. So first we'll select Regen Network. And now the TCO2s that I have, which are available for bridging, pop up right here. If you're not seeing any, and let's say you have some NCT in your balance, you would first need to actually redeem TCO2s from that NCT, which has nothing to do with bridging. So you would just do that through the Toucan app, and then you would have these TCO2s in your balance on Polygon. So I'm going to select these. I'm going to select 0.25 of my balance, so half of my balance. For the recipient address, I'm going to go over to Kepler and send these to my Regen wallet. If I paste that in here, we do some client-side validation that the Regen address looks correct, and then I can initiate the bridge. So transaction has been submitted. We can view this on the Block Explorer. And to ensure finality, we're actually waiting for 120 block confirmations on the Polygon side. So once this gets indexed here, we'll see it pop up on Polygon, and we'll be able to see it actually show up on the Regen side in a couple minutes after this has reached 120 blocks. So I wanted to take a pause then while we're waiting for that, and also talk about another feature that we launched just this past week on Regen Network, and that's the addition of user profiles. So here's my Regen profile, which I've made for, this is actually my gecko that I have back at home in Los Angeles. Gecko's name is Raphael, and this is Raphael's user profile. This is a new feature on Regen Network where, like, on the marketplace application, you can authenticate with Kepler and actually manage a set of off-chain data once you've logged in, such as an avatar, a background image, a name, an indicator of whether this account represents an individual or an organization, as well as some links. And this is all something that can be accessible publicly. You can share it so that, you know, your community or friends and family can see the carbon credits that you're holding, the carbon credits that you've retired. And yeah, this is the first kind of feature that we've launched enabled by this new off-chain login system that we built, which connects with Kepler. So similar to how Commonwealth allows for you to log in via Kepler, we now also have the ability to control kind of data that's completely independent from the blockchain and authenticate it via Kepler signature. And, you know, we already have underway some additional features built off of this same technology, like the editing of project pages via user interfaces, and also the editing of credit classes. So credit class pages and project pages, if you're the administrators of those entities on chain, you'll also be able to control and manually manage a set of off-chain metadata like descriptions, gallery images, etc., directly via the marketplace interface. So I wanted to talk through a little bit of that while we were waiting here. If we refresh, it looks like we're still maybe a few minutes away. Does anyone have any jokes that they want to tell?
I just want to know if the gecko was named after the turtle or the artist or an unknown third party.
You know, I think it was, we were looking for a very like nice and appealing name that was also gender neutral, as we don't know the gender of our baby gecko. I mean, I guess they're not as much of a baby anymore, but it's quite, I don't know. I think maybe Alex, I know that you've got a whole lot of reptiles. Maybe you and I can have a chat about gender identifying geckos. I think that we're probably at the point where we could tell if Raph is a boy or a girl, but they're like maybe a little over a year old now.
And while we're waiting, Cory, will you tell us a little bit about Gecko Cam?
Yeah,
don't you have some magical? Don't you have a camera that watches your gecko? That when you travel for work, you can watch the gecko.
We haven't installed the Gecko Cam in a while. Since they changed the cage, we've changed their like enclosure. The cam has not been installed. But we do have. Yeah, it is. All right, 100 block confirmations, 105. We're getting close to that 120 mark. And so if we go to transactions, we'll soon also see this showing up, I believe, on Toucan's UI as well. 114.
Just a heads up, it's 128.
Is it 128, not 120? Oh, my bad, thanks.
Well, maybe while we wait, we could jump to just talking about the Osmosis pool launch for a minute on the next slide, and then
I
come
think
back.
we're done. I think we're
We're
really
done.
there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Let's do it.
yeah.
Let's do it.
We're looking at 4 more blocks at this point.
Ooh, we have a question about profile data.
Yeah. What was the question?
How and where is the profile data stored, from Paul?
We're storing, I don't know if we have anyone on the interfaces team. Is Kyle on here? We're storing it, I believe, in Postgres. I don't know if there's more details that you want to provide, Kyle, to that, but pretty sure that's where it is. So here it is, April 11th. This is the transfer right here, success. So you can view the outgoing transaction on the Polygon side, the incoming transaction on the Regen side, and we can go to Bridgeable Eco credits, and you can see my balance is right there. So I had 0.25 credits in here prior. And so what you're seeing now is the amount incremented from that. So yeah, that's an overview of the bridge. Any questions on this? And I will say, of course, like if you're then looking on your eco credits portfolio, any assets that are under the TCO2 credit class will also in your actions have the ability to put them into the NCT basket. So you can do that. And when you do that, then you'll actually see that balance increment as a basket token, and you would like no longer have the actual granular eco credit assets. And these NCT assets are the ones that you would be able to view also in your Kepler wallet. So you can see here, I can see that I have this 0.25 NCT, and the NCTs are what you would be able to transfer over to Osmosis. And yeah.
Awesome.
They have to get basketed, right? So there's a step there that.
Yep. Which is what when I clicked put in basket to NCT, that was that. Yeah. I didn't actually go through with that step, but I was like showing what that would look like.
Yep. Awesome.
Cool. We just have, 2 quick minutes left. So, Christian, are you there? Do you have good internet?
I am here. I don't know if I have good internet. I'll keep my video off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Since you're helping with pool launch, do you want to just tell us the what and the where and the what's going to happen? So folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So after you basket your NCT tokens, just like Cory was showing us how to do, on Friday, presumably you will be able to go onto Osmosis and be able to import those NCT tokens in the same way that you would import Regen or Atoms into Osmosis, and be able to trade them on the newly instantiated pool on Osmosis. So the Osmosis community proposal, Regen NCT pool will be established on Osmosis, and R&D Inc. is matching that liquidity there. So there'll be pretty deep liquidity. And then Osmo NCT pool will be started with very little liquidity, but it'll have incentives associated with it. So people will start bringing NCTs over, buying them off of the Regen NCT pool and bring them over to NCT Osmo pool and staking them there for incentives. So should be pretty exciting over the next, starting on Friday, to see what happens in those pools. Love everyone to participate.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah. This slide says that both pools are incentivized with Regen, but I believe that only the Osmo NCT pool is incentivized with Regen. That's how the proposal is written on the Osmo side.
All right. Thank you for that update. Get that changed. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, so if you're interested in this, I would definitely suggest that you guys check out the Regen Ready News Hour happening next Thursday, because they're going to deep dive into the NCT pools. All right, one last thing before we let everybody go for today. There is a new proposal up live, and that is to remove the rolling vented policy so that our NCT criteria aligns with Toucan's. And that's just to ensure that NCT can be used on all of the chains, Polygon, Celo, and ours. The proposal does look a little whack. Check out the discussion that goes along with it. So you can get all the details before voting, but yep, check that out. And yeah, thanks everybody for attending. The next community call is in 2 weeks. I'll see you there.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks so much.
Nice job, everybody. Good work, engineering team, building that bridge.